Well folks, Andy Universe has been on the internet for 1 month. And to celebrate this milestone, I'm going to do a rant that was requested of me back when I did my first video. My viewer Dave asked me to do some videos comparing old games to new games. So, I decided, why the heck not? Now, about 30 days later, I'm going to make good on that request. So sit back, relax, make sure that your materia slots are full, and set your limit breaks to level 4 with the gauge maxed out. This is the legacy of Final Fantasy VII. This game needs no introduction to any true gamer. Even if you're not a fan of Final Fantasy, or even role-playing games for that matter, if you're worth your salt with a controller in your hand, you are at least aware of the popularity of this game. Basically, if you don't know what Final Fantasy VII is, and all you're good at playing is BioShock and Call of Duty 4 and Halo, then I'm sorry, but you are not a true gamer. In fact, I would even call you a preppy, double-pits-to-chesty loser than even consider giving you the title of even a casual gamer. And that's not a good thing. At all. Back to addressing the gamers out there. Final Fantasy VII was a landmark game when it came out, and is still incredibly popular even to this day. Much like many of the other classic titles that have been hailed as near perfect by critics and players alike, Final Fantasy VII has aged like a fine wine, delivering gameplay that stands perfectly well on its own, without being hindered by the fact that its graphics and musical score are a little more than a decade behind today's video gaming standards. So, do I speak with nostalgia goggles on? Yeah, of course. But I would defy you to find any gamer out there worth his salt with a controller in his hand who has played Final Fantasy VII and not found the experience to be at least enjoyable. Of course, it's not just me who loves this game. Final Fantasy VII has been critically acclaimed right from the get-go when it was released in the US in 1997. I personally think that the main selling points of the game included the fact that Final Fantasy VII took its audience seriously. It was certainly one of the first games I ever knew that had characters that swore. Well, at least it was heavily implied that they swore. And the dialogue in general seemed to be natural and spontaneous. The fact that Barrett's dialogue is sometimes riddled with onomatopoeias and slang makes him a fun character for a gamer to interact with. Now, I know that the English translation of Final Fantasy VII has been criticized for having some spelling and grammatical errors. For example, Sephiroth has an accessory called a Tough Ring, spelt T-O-U-P-H. That's pretty bad. But at the same time, I find those errors and the sometimes nonsensical direct Japanese to English translations and phrases to be part of the game's charm. It makes the characters sound far more natural to me. I mean, I don't always speaking with perfect grammar English, but nobody really does in casual conversation. In fact, I guess that kind of adds to the realism of Final Fantasy VII. So for all you people who think that a game script is perfect just because it has perfect spelling and punctuation in it, please consider that next time. That you're actually going through something that is less relatable to you than something that may not be a perfect translation at all. Also memorable in Final Fantasy VII is its musical score. The soundtrack is some of the best produced by Nobuo Uematsu, the musical director for all of the major numbered Final Fantasy titles up until Final Fantasy XI came out in late 2003. To people like me, Uematsu is a musical genius whose work is always an integral part of any game in which his name appears in the credits. The music of Final Fantasy VII is memorable and diverse, and tuned perfectly for setting the mood for all of the game's various settings, ranging from the beaches of Costa del Sol to the barren mountains of the northern continent. The purpose of this video is still to compare the original Final Fantasy VII to its successors in Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus. I just want to take a moment or two to go over just how much of a big deal Final Fantasy VII was, and I'm doing this for two reasons mainly. One, some people may never have played Final Fantasy VII, so right now I'm giving them a crash course in the game before I start talking about its successors. And two, it may have been a while since some of you people have played the game, so I just want to give you a little refresher before I go on. The game opens in Midgar, a city owned and run by the Shinra Electric Corporation, which is a company that has been able to achieve vast sums of wealth and power by holding a worldwide monopoly on electricity provided by utilizing Mako, a magical force that lives within the planet. Shinra's exploitation of Mako energy has allowed it to accrue enough riches to build entire cities under its name, coerce the peoples living on every other continent to accept their services, and build up a global military force just to make sure that nobody tries to dismantle their financial empire. However, there are some who rightly believe that Mako is not the renewable resource that Shinra believes it to be, and in fact have taken up arms against the company to end its use of Mako, since the Mako itself is effectively the lifeblood of the planet. Thus, if Shinra is allowed to continue to drain the planet of its Mako energy, the planet itself will become barren and wither away.